Good morning, whatever. Here on Monday, October the 21st, edging closer to Halloween. I have my Unicorn Power Pop-Tart here, so I'm ready to go. Went out and did a little bit of Pokemonin this morning, but now I'm home, so that's why the video might be a little late today. And if you remember yesterday, if you saw yesterday, if you didn't block it out of your memory, which is what I would do, I said something about, depending on my time, I might go ahead and add in a little something special. But then I decided to make it its own little video, because this is a little collection of horror films that kind of are their own little thing. And they're very dusty on the top, but what I have is the 8 films to die for. This was, from my recollection, it was like a movie marathon, and I think they did it maybe in the city somewhere. I want to say they did it maybe recently, whatever word I'm looking for. They did it somewhere in the area, maybe up in Kansas City, something like that. And so I don't know if you had to pay for each film individually. I want to say they sold it as it was a kind of like a movie marathon. You know, you could go and you could, kind of like they do with the Avengers movies, every time, you know, like watch all the Avengers movies from the beginning to the end or whatever. So I really wanted to go see these. Excuse me, and I did not get a chance to. That was Best Choice Black Cherry. I was coming with that. But there are these 8 films to die for, apparently, and they were supposed to be, you know, like horror movies that like were, you know, more horrific, I guess. They were supposed to be a little bit more edgy, I guess, than like a regular like PG-13 movie or whatever, you know, sold to the masses or whatever. Like this was supposed to be, you know, every horror's dream or whatever. Like just, you know, just some really. So I got all hyped for it because I thought, well, these are going to be some, you know, pretty good movies, some pretty hardcore horror movies or whatever, and I don't necessarily know that they really were. Maybe not for me. I want to say they did this a second time. Horrorfest. See, that's what I'm saying. I got the boxed set, and it has, there's the top of it, and there's the front of it that you've seen a million times, and this shows you all the movies there on the back, I guess you'd say. And of course it should, well, is it more? I guess it describes the movies on the back here. So, and there's the bottom, but the bottom, who cares? Right. So I don't know. I assume you could pay an entrance fee and watch as many of these movies as you wanted, watch all of them if you wanted. I mean, it might have been over a couple different days. I don't really know. But it was the Horrorfest thing, and I don't know if I said, I want to say they did it a second time. I want to say they did 2 of these. I don't, unfortunately, have the collection of the second Horrorfest, but I do have the first, and we'll go through them real quick. Because I wanted to have all of them, so this boxed set was available, so I went ahead and got the boxed set. Up first is Unrest. Allison Blanchard begins her journey to become a physician in her gross anatomy class, where she must confront rows of cadavers and her own fear of mortality. When the sheets are drawn back, revealing her cadaver, Allison senses a presence in the lab. Her jaded professor chalks it up to her first-year jitters, but her worries increase when a friend is found dead in the basement. Allison must find out the truth behind apparently referee was being terrified just by the description of this movie. Allison must find out the truth behind her cadaver before its angered spirit can wreak further vengeance on those who dare to disturb the body. I want to say I watched all of these. Okay, I want to say I watched all of these. We're gonna run into that problem again where I don't really remember them. There's one of them that I remember a little bit more than the rest, I think. But anyway, that's Unrest. And like I said, I don't really remember these being any more like hardcore horror than, like a regular PG-ish 13 movie. This is probably the one I remember the most, Grave Dancers. What's his name is in this? He's Dominic Purcell? Dominic Purcell, however you say that. I want to say that this is the one that he's in. Claire Kramer, was that Glorificus? Claire Kramer? Is that who I'm thinking of? I don't know. This is probably the one that I remember the most. The Grave Dancers. After a drunken night of dancing on graves, a group of friends are haunted by 3 havoc-minded ghosts bent on revenge. One of the things that I thought was cool about this was, I can't remember where it was that we went, but every time we travel to a new location, I always check the drinks to see if there's any unique drinks or whatever, because sometimes there's things that are only in certain locations or certain regions of the country, and I ran into something called cheerwine once, and I don't know for sure where it was, what region of the country it's in. But I remember, finding this thing called Cheerwine, and I liked it all right. And somewhere in the background of this movie is actually a Cheerwine vending machine, and I thought that was just so cool. Because you always see Pepsi, you always see Coke or whatever, but I'm like, hey, Cheerwine, I've tried that. That's pretty good stuff. I liked it all right. Unfortunately, that's probably the most that I remember about this one. I seem to think I liked this one okay. Enough. Anyway, I'm going to say this one was worth the watch, at least, for it. I don't remember how much I paid for this boxed set, but anyway. Wicked Little Things, pray for them. Unrated director's cut. Recently widowed Karen Tunney and her 2 daughters, Sarah and Emma, moved to a remote mountain home which Karen has inherited from the family of her late husband. However, she is unaware that the home is situated near an old mine, the site of an early 20th century tragedy in which many children were buried alive. A fun undead romp. There again, don't really remember it. I want to say I watched all of these. There was one in particular that I wasn't that interested in because it seemed when I may have watched trailers or something. It seemed like it was more of a drama than anything else. But I think that one ended up being one of the ones maybe more that I liked a little bit more once I got into it or whatever. Reincarnation. Death is only the beginning. From the director of The Grudge and The Grudge 2 comes an eerie tale of a hotel with a terrifying history. 35 years after the slaughter, a film director returns to the scene of a mass murder to recreate the gruesome killings on film. As he and his crew step into the now abandoned hotel, the cast members begin to see creepy visions and nightmares. When shooting commences, the cast members begin to suffer very familiar fates, the exact fate they are to act out in the film. So, it has a good setup, at least. That sounds interesting enough. I might, once it said it was in an old hotel, I might maybe remember the hotel a little bit. Because sometimes for me, I like if the setting is kind of like its own character, I guess, as they say, it's creepy and foreboding and whatever, like, I have a tendency to remember that movie or like that movie, just because of the atmosphere and the scenery is, so neat and pretty to look at. I don't necessarily remember the scenery being neat or pretty, but I seem to remember it was an interesting, I guess, I may be just remembering kind of the foyer, however you say it. I don't know, but I don't remember. So, ta-da! The Hamiltons. Their loss is your pain. The Hamiltons seem to be the picture-perfect American family. They are hardworking community members, giving to their local charities, attending town hall meetings, and always respectful of their neighbors, except for the fact that they usually end up killing them. So mean. This might have been the one that I thought looked more like a drama. And so I was kind of, this was one of the ones that I wasn't really looking forward to watching. But once I understood the movie and what was happening and whatever, like this is probably one of my two favorite. Like I said, I think I like the Grave Dancers enough. This one had an interesting little thing that went along with it, and I was kind of like, oh, okay. And I didn't see it coming, and it was kind of like, oh, okay. So once it got into what it actually was, I seem to think that I liked this one a lot better because it kind of hit me with something I wasn't expecting. So The Hamiltons was probably, for me, one of the two good ones, okay ones. Dark Ride, the last ride you will ever take. Nearly a decade after two young girls were brutally murdered. I want to say this is the one that I watched first because, it has a creepy atmosphere. It's like, this little, fair down here, Carnival, whatever, blah, 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 blah. Like, I want to say this is the one that I watched first. And it's kind of, Nearly a decade after two young girls were brutally murdered, the monstrous killer, Jonah, escapes from a mental institution and returns to his familiar killing ground, the theme park attraction Dark Ride. His unfortunate victims this time are a group of college kids on a road trip that inevitably leads them to the Dark Ride, where their night of youthful fun becomes a nightmare. The killer, who is mimicking the sets within the attraction, makes sure this is a ride audiences will never forget. So I kind of think it was like, it was all right, but it wasn't. I guess, like I said, I was expecting more from these movies because the way that they sold them is, like these were going to be so much, I keep using the word hardcore because for lack of a better word, I guess nothing else is coming to me. But like I was expecting more from these movies, and I felt like they were just basically like any other old, PG-13, like any other horror movie that I'd seen before. They weren't really anything necessarily special. But I mean, it still would have been cool to have gotten to go to the film festival and see them all, together and whatnot, and, kind of experience all that. Minxie is grooming me, so she's making sure to take care of me. The last one in the set is Penny Dreadful. Don't forget to breathe. That's very important. A young woman traumatized by a childhood auto accident crosses paths with a mysterious hitchhiker who preys upon her worst fears. And here we go. See? Thank you, Minx. Once again, I don't really necessarily remember. I feel like this is very similar. I mean, some of them are just like the ideas behind them, like aren't necessarily that creative, I guess. They're just very, as I've said in other videos, kind of like paint by numbers. A young woman traumatized by a childhood auto accident crosses paths with a mysterious hitchhiker who preys on her worst fears. I mean, it doesn't mean the movie can't be entertaining, I suppose, but yeah, there again, unfortunately, I don't really remember this one either. I don't really remember any of them, to be honest, but yeah, I just kind of just kind of checked out there for a second. Sorry. I was looking at the... Oh, thank you. I was looking at the things on the back there. Allison, a first-year medical student, discovers that the spirit of the cadaver she is to dissect is responsible for murder. So, yeah, that's what I wanted to kind of do this one as kind of its own little thing, since it was its own little package and, you know, all that kind of stuff. So I guess I'll make today another shorty kind of video. Well, I don't know how short it actually is, but I don't need to talk about anything else. So I'm just gonna let Minx take care of me now and finish my Pop-Tart. And I kind of would like to see them do. What did you do? Show desktop, peek at desktop. I don't want to do either one of those things. Go away. There we go. That's when she knocked my mouse over. I would like to see them do that again. Like I said, I mean, maybe the first one. I don't know. I mean, like I want to say they had a second one, but I don't remember hearing about a third Horrorfest that they had. So I mean, I don't know if everybody kind of like me, they were expecting more and just not getting it, and they're kind of like, eh. So I would like to find the you know, the other movies and watch them just to see what the, you know, maybe they up the ante on the second ones. I don't know, but I don't know. But I at least have the first ones. I at least have the movies from the first Horrorfest. So that's cool. I enjoy it. And what? Okay. She's just gonna keep doing that. So I'm just gonna reach over here and say I'll see you for what I see you.